Well, it's been a crazy year, and I so appreciate you coming.
I appreciate being here. And it doesn't seem like a hostile crowd. It's not like that every day.
You have your vest on? No, I'm kidding.
No, but I got my guys out front.
That's right.
Living metal detectors.
Forget about it. Okay. Well, I like to say what has happened is basically defunded the police in a roundabout way. Let's talk about morale. Let's talk about some of the challenges you're facing.
Well, what's interesting is defunding the police usually started up in King County, right? And look how well that's worked for them. It's interesting that everybody wanted to defund the Seattle police. And when they did that, we had about 50, 60 Seattle officers that live in Pierce County come down here and apply for Pierce County. We hired 12 of them, cream of the crop. Not the rest, they didn't pass our background because our standards are higher. So we got really good, kick-ass Seattle cops working for Pierce County. That's the first thing. So they lost 280 officers. Now they're seeing how well that goes because Jenny Durkin just announced last week she's signing a $15,000 bonus for anybody who comes back or will join the Seattle Police Department. So they're an experiment of their own failure that shows that's not ever going to work. So they did the work for us there. And I think if most of you followed the election, throughout my election, I originally stated, don't King County our Pierce. Don't King County our Pierce. And I made some enemies doing that. And I had a lot of people came after me after that. One of the other things that we did is I think that a lot of you heard about the blue line, meaning the support the police and the blue line sticker. And some people have banned that from the departments. We didn't. Our Pierce County guys are still have the blue line. We have guys that are buried here that have that blue line on their coffin. We're not ever going to ban that. We're not going to ban flags from the cars or any of that nonsense. And that's why we have a lot of military guys that work for us, and that's why I think that we've attracted some natural enemies down here.
Yeah. What does it look like policing Pierce County? What per capita compared to other areas?
So the average per capita police officer in the country is 1 point officers per 1,000 people. In the state of Washington, it's about 1.2. Our department's 0.64 per 1,000 people. So if we doubled in size, we still would not have the national average of deputies per citizen ratio. And that doesn't include the cities. That's just unincorporated Pierce County. So we have a lot of guys that wear a lot of hats. You see our guys driving SUVs. They're also divers. They're also on the SWAT team. They have multiple talents. And same with our detectives. Every one of us do multiple jobs. And I couldn't be prouder of our department. That's the way we're handling it through this, because instead of saying what we can't do, we're going to stick with what we can do. Yeah. And one of the things that our department's done, where a lot of people have gone away from the less lethal because of the conflicting laws and they don't want to get in trouble, we're still going to go with the less lethal because I'd rather have our people use beanbags and rubber bullets before going straight to real bullets. It's going to be a lot easier to defend in the long run. When history looks back, that'll be the right decision. Doesn't matter what the politicians or some of the attorneys say. That's how we're going to do it.
That's awesome. Talking about some of the challenges that are inherent to law enforcement and being spread so thin, how's the mental health? What's that state that you're seeing of your officers?
Well, there's a lot of people that have been on many years and wanted to stay 2 to 5 more years that have announced in the last 3 weeks they're retiring. I had about 20 deputies in the hole 3 months ago. As of yesterday, I'm down 31. And there are people that don't want to risk their families. They've been on 30, 35 years, and they had their way of doing policing, and now they're not because they don't want to risk it. It's hard to recruit and get younger people to come do the job when things have just changed dramatically. And we're trying to keep our people to keep our heads up and say things are going to change. Go out and do your job. If you do it right, we have your back. Pierce County will have your back. Yeah. Don't listen to the nonsense that's going on up in King County. Yeah. And I know I say a lot about King County, but this is where most of this started at. It all started up there, and I heard one of the earlier talks about us being the gateway of moving south. And we're going to be a strong gateway, and we're going to keep our people strong, and we're going to make them use their tools and do what they do best, and that's keep us safe, you know. For many, many years, it was always just let the police do it. Mental health, homeless, sex offenders, all that stuff's new to us, and when they couldn't figure out what to do with it, let the police do it. Hey, I love our co-responder program. We have a co-responder program. We have 5 mental health workers working with our deputies, out driving with them to handle mental health calls. During my campaign, I said I'd like to double that. Well, we're up to 9 now. So, of course, we should have mental health workers handling mental health calls. Yeah. Let the police do the police work. Same with social services. We find homeless people, people that are in need, people are in services. Let's get social workers out there to take care of it and let our people go do police work. This is what they're all screaming for. Let's give it to them. Yeah. But let's not de-police and let criminals go. There's a big difference. I know you all have big hearts and want to help people.
Yeah.
Right.
Talk about maybe some of the unique challenges, like maybe somebody that's in their house, they're suicidal, they have a weapon, fire department, they don't know what to do. What happens right now under current law?
Well, what we're doing is that's where we're bringing our mental health pros out to those calls. They've talked a lot of people down from suicide, people armed in the middle of intersections, and our deputies love it, and that's why they call on them so much, and that's why we're doubling the program. And we'll continue to do that with other directions we need to go with specialists in the field. That's how we're going to move forward and let the cops be cops. Let them do police work. When somebody breaks in your house, I want my people to be available to show up when you call 911. Yeah. You know, we don't need them spending 4 or 5 hours trying to find services for somebody who's homeless for the 5th time. Yep. And then 2 nights later, we find them again. That's a Band-Aid. We need a permanent fix, and that's going to be tying in with social services, the community, nonprofits, and volunteer groups. And they're our backbone. You know, we have 300-something deputies, but we got thousands of people that support us through many organizations. Yeah. Crime Stoppers, Charlie's Dinosaur, Toys for Tots, Marine Veterans, they all come volunteer for a lot of stuff we do to take care of a lot of that. And I'd love to see those programs expanded throughout the community.
Yep. You know, we had a meeting, I don't know, a little over a month ago, and you were talking about how you didn't want to see the pendulum, like there's been an overcorrection because of this, as Representative Walsh said, the heart. There's been an overcorrection in the laws and law enforcement, and you said you know there needs to be a correction, but you didn't want to see an overcorrection.
Correct. So if the pendulum's way up here, it's starting to swing back. If it swings back too far, we're in the same spot. So we got to find the middle ground and work it out amongst us all, what's going to work and how we're going to get services and how we're going to fix some of the laws that have just messed everything up. Our canine, a really quick example, you probably all know because you live out here, we had a homicide of a young man, a good young man at Kohl's last week, and we could not deploy the canine. And I can't tell you a lot of the details, but the kid was shot multiple times. And somebody ran away, our canine got there, we could not deploy the canine because of the new laws. So luckily we had some good detectives that kind of acted like a dog, like a canine dog, spent 4 days awake, chased the suspect down, we got him, we have him in custody. But what happens between the time it occurred and 4 days later? Do we lose another life? We don't know, so we need some of our tools back. And when we get our tools back, it wasn't thought through well. We've heard that very many times, and there was not a lot of police involvement on why we should or could or couldn't do things. There's actually something silly written into one of the new laws, because some of these House bills are 300 pages. There's actually something written in the laws that we're not allowed to arm our drones. Well, first, we don't have drones. You know, other than to look at traffic wrecks and searching people, and we would never arm a drone. I don't even know if there's such a thing that you could arm a drone.
Russia.
But yeah, we can't. So don't worry, we can't arm our drones. And when I was talking to the county council in the last study session, I said, you know those drones can make it to the 7th floor, which is where they're at, so be careful. A couple of them got it, and the others looked a little scared. I said, no. We don't have drones, let alone armed drones, so it's not a thing.
Well, you know, you talk about the canine, that's a de-escalation tool, number one. Number two, you're not putting an officer at risk. I mean, these are powerful tools that have essentially defunded in a roundabout way. But the left, and here's the thing I want to say is, some of you, even some of you watching right now, you think, people that are conservative, biblical conservatives, we're running around with our heads on fire and we're just crazy lunatics, want to shoot everybody, okay? And that's a lie. Because and the reality is you can't reason with the far left. They have an agenda and they will not negotiate. They won't. And so I wanted you to hear your sheriff's heart, that this is a human being that has a heart for our community and a heart for our officers. And we so appreciate the work that you've been doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm only as good as the 350 commissioned officers and 300 civilian staff that we have in our corrections officers. One of the other things I want to talk about is our jail population. It was built to hold 12 or 1,300 people. Before COVID, we were holding about 1,100 people, 86% felons, 82% with mental health issues. Now we have 560, do the math. Okay, take those 400 people that are out and should be in jail for many reasons. And we have a lot of people that are drug addicted with mental health issues that are just out in public. And when we talk about our canines, you said it right, it's a de-escalation. And that's how, we actually have somebody sitting here tonight whose life is probably still here because her dog's isn't. And we also know that canines do a lot of good when it comes to de-escalating and saving lives, catching suspects. So I'm glad that what they did is they went down and educated people, and that worked, and it got taken out. So when we all have a chance to go down and educate, when we get back in session and we're not on Zooms, we will be there in force to make sure they're very aware of the consequences of what they do. Yeah.
Awesome. Any final thoughts that you want to throw out?
Well, we can't do it without the support of the community. And this is very overwhelming to me, the support of the community, and I can't wait to take it back to our people and let them know how it went. A lot of our people are kind of on the fence, whether we respond to this call or not this call. We are doing education and training videos, and even the attorneys are still trying to figure it out. And what I heard earlier,
your attorneys,
our attorneys,
yeah.
Believe me, their attorneys are too.
Yeah.
And bad guys' attorneys will be licking their chops when something goes wrong, if you can't imagine that. One of the things that they were talking about earlier, you got to have three drug convictions before it's a felony. The secret, and everybody knew that down there when this happened, is the state and the labs will not test drugs on a misdemeanor. So there's never going to be a drug conviction. There'll never be 3 drug convictions. The prosecutor's office isn't going to submit it. So we just stood up our SI unit, 11 Special Investigative Unit, which was our narcotics unit, which we've changed direction. If we can't go after the drugs and narcotics, because even though they're legal, they're not free. The state's not handing out free drugs. They're not giving out money to buy drugs. So you know how they're getting the money to buy drugs? The old-fashioned way. Stealing your stuff and doing that type of criminal behavior. So we're going to go after the theft rings, the catalytic converter rings. We're going to go after the sexploitation of children, and we'll do it that way. Our Special Investigators Unit just helped track down that homicide suspect that we had out here. So I can't tell you the number on this, but we have multiple illegal grow operations in Pierce County where they're coming in and buying $500,000 houses and trashing them and growing large amounts of weed. I know weed's legal, we don't chase it around, but this is ruining neighborhoods, and all the marijuana that's being grown in these houses is being shipped to Chicago and New York where it's still illegal. It's not even hitting the streets here, but it's causing terrible problems for neighborhoods. So we're gonna go after that. And we have a lot of different things that we're going to go after the next year and keep moving forward and do everything we can to keep you safe.
It's an onion you just keep peeling back because the agenda is so far-reaching. they try to overwhelm us. It's blitzkrieg, you know, and I just love the fact that we are not going to be caught unaware and that we're not going to be taken advantage, because we will speak up, we will rise up, and we will stand up. So, Sheriff, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Appreciate your support so much.